JavaScript, the de facto programming language of the web that programmers love to hate and sometimes hate to admit that they actually love. I was one of those, mainly because of its quirkiness and sometimes confusing syntax, and boy is it sometimes very confusing. But it's a tool that you cannot get away from, especially in today's modern web technology driven world, because like I said earlier, JavaScript is the de facto language of the web, and it's also slightly regarded as the undisputed champ of the web in terms of how the web works in general. So in this video, my goal is to give you some tips on how you can master JavaScript in this year in 2024 really fast. Because the thing is, believe it or not, most people when they come to a new language or learning programming in general make their lives way too hard in the beginning. And chances are you've made or are making these mistakes right now. And I'm saying this from my own experience because I know that I made these same mistakes when I first started out myself. But if you've been following some of the advice that's been around the community at large, you may be following some dated and slightly misguided advice somewhere here and there. But by the end of our time here in this video, my goal is to tell you how to make those hard programming things or concepts stick to your brain like glue. So first things first, don't start with a low-level programming language. If you can help it for everything good in the world, don't start with a low-level programming language like C or C++. The reason why is because those have a lot of heavy lifting that you have to learn how to do, and while you're learning at the same time, it's not the best use of your time because it'll be like basically shooting yourself in the foot. What you should do is start with a higher level programming language like Python or JavaScript, because it abstracts a lot of the things that you would need to have understood away from you so that you can just get to what you need to actually get done in terms of project building. So things like memory management and garbage collection, all of that stuff is handled for you so you don't have to do it yourself, and so that you don't have to learn along with learning how to build the actual project that you're trying to build at the same time. But now if you're the person that likes to build things and put out fires and learn at the same time, by all means, my friend, you go right ahead, because C will be your best friend. But because Python and JavaScript are abstracted away primarily away from the things that you have to do lower level, it's easier to understand relative to a lower level language. And then the second thing to note here is the demand for the actual jobs that are around your city or location that you want to be in, because a higher demand means that there will be more job postings for that area, and for the demand in the community or the job market at large, it will be humongous for that particular skill that you have in that language. And luckily for us, there is a language that exists quite like that. Its name is JavaScript. So when we build websites or web apps as they're called, we build them in two different distinct parts, usually a back end and a front end. But step one in this list is to just get moving, get started, do something, start today, because no matter what you decide to do, whether back end or front end, you have to just pick something and get going. Because if you don't, and I'm a huge testament, this channel is a huge testament to it in general, if you don't start now, you'll be mad that you didn't in the next year when you could have had more progress in the long run. But Joel, which course should I take? There's so much to actually go and research. What should I go and do right now? The course that you should take is the one that you can stick to. No more, no less. And luckily for you and me, there are a bunch of free resources all over the internet that help aid in your learning journey. So the excuse is that there is no excuse. But if you need a curated list of things to actually go and check out in terms of recommendations, I would check out CS50X, LinkedIn Learning, believe it or not, Newline.io, and Free Code Camp, obviously. Now, Zero to Mastery is also a hidden gem here as well, but I I haven't taken any of their courses, so I can't really speak to what they actually have to offer. But I've heard good things in terms of the community around the YouTube stuff, but I haven't actually taken that course myself or any of their courses myself, so I can't really speak to how they are just yet. Also, a huge favor that you can do for yourself is to try and find a way to gamify your learning as much as possible. A way to do that and an aid in that particular vein would be the Odin project. And this is by far something that I wish was around for me when I got started way back in the day, because again, this is a completely free resource that literally allows you to go from point A to point Z in starting and finishing a full project. But if you did nothing else, read the first few modules, and it's a completely text-based situation. So if you're not a huge reader, I understand, but it's worth going through and actually checking out if you want to understand what's going on in the programming world from a first principles standpoint. But the main thing here to understand is find something and get going. Get started. Don't get stuck just looking for and analyzing things. Start now. Get going. Now, step 2, I think that's where we are right now. Step 2 is be a web developer. And I know that sounds brash and kind of weird and harsh, but I actually mean literally exactly what I'm saying. Start now, because if you're starting to build web projects that you know that you can build, it actually gives you more confidence to keep going. Now, what you know right now may not be a whole lot, but as you're building things, and even if they're small projects to start, as you're building things and you're researching things, you're going to start solidifying and plugging in holes of the knowledge that you didn't know as you start to build larger and larger projects. And you also may not even feel like you're ready or that you have the skills to actually get something done at a certain level. But what you're going to find out is as you start to build, you're going to actually get more enlightenment on what you do know and solidify that, which then is going to heighten what you don't know in terms of learning faster. So trust me, start now, start building, even if you don't feel like you have everything in tow just yet. And when you do that, you will learn a ton and it will stick. Because again, if you just go and learn the fundamentals and never actually go and build something, you're never going to really solidify what you actually know versus what you don't know and what you need to fill in. And to add insult to injury, it's going to feel like you're not able to really tackle a full project when you come to a blank slate, because you've never actually built that muscle before. So I implore you, if you do nothing else, start learning the fundamentals, sure, but once you have some things under your belt, go build something. And again, trust me, I get that sunken pit feeling that you get when you come to a new project and you have no idea what to do. But the more that you do that and you get comfortable being uncomfortable with that feeling, the more it starts to become a superpower for you to actually catapult to the next level. So my official tip here is to try before you really feel like you're ready, because actually the fun is actually in that part of the journey. In fact, let me try explaining this by playing the drums, for example. Now, if you were learning how to play the drums, you wouldn't want someone just playing the drums in front of you while you just watch them play the drums standing next to them. No, you would actually want to have the sticks in your hand with your foot on the kick, hitting those drums yourself. That's exactly the same thing that we want to carry over into programming as well. We wouldn't want to just be standing and looking at someone watching them program in front of us on a YouTube screen, but we actually want to go and build something, especially if it's going to help automate something in our life. Now, a way to help aid in your learning, at least something that has always helped me in the way that I learn, is to visualize what is going on in front of you. So, for example, when I first started learning how to edit videos for YouTube in general, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, but I wasn't necessarily doing it in front of me as they were doing it. But once I actually started to see what they were doing, and more specifically, once I started using editing packs and seeing how it was actually professionally done, it was easier to visualize how I would maneuver my own clips and make a better video. So when it comes to actually learning programming, and specifically here in JavaScript, it is a key thing to learn while visualizing what you're doing, because then you can use that same snippet of code later on when you need it, when you actually come against that same problem, because indefinitely you will encounter the same problem just in a different format somewhere else down the line. So learning how to understand what your program is doing, what your code is doing as you learn, will literally help in leaps and bounds on your learning process. And of course, I've found a tool that helps to do exactly that, at least in terms of JavaScript, and it's called Run.js. And this tool is probably something that if I would have had this while I was learning how to use JavaScript, I probably would have learned at least a little bit faster, at least probably half of a year faster, because I would have liked JavaScript a little bit more. But what Run.js actually allows you to do is run something and visualize the output as you're actually writing the code. Man, I really do wish that this type of tool was available for me when I first started. Y'all got it easy. Okay, so we're developers now. We're web developers now, right? Not yet. Not yet. Well, almost, because you have pretty much all of the skills that you need in terms of the individual things of JavaScript and HTML and possibly even CSS, obviously, if you're going in the front end direction. But you have all of that in individual buckets, and no one really actually hires for individual JavaScript or individual HTML or individual CSS. And more specifically, no one really uses just plain vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. What they actually use are frameworks. And what you actually need to understand are those frameworks. And JavaScript has a lot of frameworks to understand. But the one that you will primarily see in the wild will be React, and sometimes also Vue. Now, my recommendation in terms of React versus Vue, in terms of which one to learn first, I would pick Vue because it's a little bit easier to understand and their developer tools are way more robust, but React is where the money is in terms of job posting. So learn both of them, but my favorite is Vue. And if you want a further resource on learning these frameworks, Newline.io is a perfect resource to actually use. It is a paid resource, just by the way, but it is one of the best paid resources in terms of learning JavaScript frameworks that I've ever come across. Not only is it beautiful to watch or look at, it is also very comprehensive, and you're actually building a project along with them as you go along inside of the course. And yes, they have frameworks for both front end and back end. So the back end is basically Node and Node.js and Express and all that kind of stuff, would be Vue, React, Angular, Gatsby, and things like that. But Joel, you literally just told me to go and learn all of this individual fundamental stuff, and now you're saying that no one uses it? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. But the reason why I told you to go and learn the fundamentals is because you would have to understand what is going on underneath the hood inside of those frameworks, and not understanding the fundamentals is never going to allow you to do that. Case in point, you wouldn't try and build or service a Lambo in your garage without learning how to build a Ford by yourself before doing that. Would you? I would hope not. So you now have all of the fundamentals and the web frameworks all under tow. Are you a fully certified dev yet? Not yet. Really close. Because what I need you to do now is to revisit step 2.5, which is to become a web developer. And this time, shy away, and I mean literally run from projects that you know that you can already build. Because if you keep doing that and keep building things that you already know how to build and never challenge yourself, you're never going to learn new things that you actually can progress in your skill set. Because at this stage, you should be graduated from to-do apps and weather apps and things of that nature to now build things that are way more progressive in learning and building things that you've never done before. Things like bug trackers, recommendation systems, and things of that nature. Stuff like that is going to push the needle and make you really Google some things, and it will be a lot of Googling, so won't shy away from that fact. If you will embrace that, and I'm sorry to tell you, if you're going into the tech sector or into the tech industry, it's still competitive regardless of everything that is still slightly in high demand, but it's still a heavily competitive area to be in. So the more that you challenge yourself every day, if you can stand it, the more you're going to stand out. But the thing I want you to take away from this video, if nothing else, is that you just have to start now. Do the hard thing now. If you do nothing else, try something that you've never done, because that is where all of the fun actually is. But if no one else has told you this today, I believe in you. I believe in us. So please believe in yourself. You can do this. You will do this. You got this, fam. Go win today. Until next time, blurt out.